Hello everyone. Hope all of you are doing good. All those who have written mains, who have not written mains, it is very important that you analyze that what the examiner is looking at and how you should have approached the paper. So we are here with the first reaction. About the detailed discussion, we will be scheduling it in the coming days. But right now, just let's get a glimpse of what happened in your mains paper 1 2022 PSIR optional. So in my opinion, it was continuity with change. And why would I say so? That this paper is has not been a 202 starter. It has been a starter of a trend which started in 2019. And let's see what were the remarkable trends that developed in the UPSC PSIR optional since 2019. Okay, so first thing that came is the open-ended statements. And in the light of this, interpret a particular theory. Okay, so the first trend that started was with open-ended statements, and in light of this interpretation of the theories, unlike earlier where they would directly ask what is the elitist theory of power, what is the elitist theory of a particular concept. Okay, so the first thing that came about was this open-ended statements. Then came about was never asked themes. Never asked themes, which means though the theme is part of the syllabus topic, like it is a theme about the theory of action, okay, of Hannah Arendt. Hannah Arendt is very much the part of a syllabus, but to what depth you study Hannah Arendt? Is it to what extent the dimensions you have done in Hannah Arendt, in Gramsci? Okay, that came about in being. So this never asked themes of syllabus topics also started. Of syllabus topics. Okay. Then came about into being was never asked comparisons. Never asked comparisons. Which means, what was this never asked comparison? So first time in 2022, we see how you have to compare the Greek perspective on justice with Rawlsian perspective of justice. Then they asked the evolution of the Western political thought from ancient until the contemporary times. So these were themes which have not been asked, even though they are part of the syllabus, and it is the comparisons that had not been asked. Okay, so this never asked comparison, I'll give you two key examples. One is that they asked the Rawlsian comparison in the Western tradition only, which means in the ancient Greece, and today's paper has a Rawlsian comparison with social justice of B.R. Ambedkar, which means now WPT is being compared with IPT. So UPSC has clearly laid for you a key line of thought कि भाई अब आने वाले समय में Western political thought and ideas of thinkers will be compared with ideas of Indian political thinkers. मतलब लिबर्टी को गांधी के स्वराज से भी पूछा जा सकता है. समझ में आया? So this is the new trend that happened today. And that comparison, okay, initially that happened only in Western tradition, is now having comparison with the Indian tradition. Okay. Then came about one very important trend since 2019. Before 2019, it was implicit that when students write a question, that you should always write current relevance. It is common sense कि भाई एक concept है, आपने पढ़ा है, और आप उसको अगर current और आसपास के events से जो हो रहा है उससे link नहीं कर पा रहे हैं, तो you have only understood it very procedurally. So now UPSC started becoming more explicit. And explicit in what sense? It started asking themes and current relevance, current developments, even in theory. And I have been continuously emphasizing in my class that always link even theory, not only IGP, not only IR, but even section A of both the papers with the current developments. Okay, so this trend we can see. So they had asked Aristotle's concept and how it is relevant to modern constitutional democracies. And today also we see how neoliberalism in the present context, liberal theory of state in the present context. तो थियोरी के क्वेश्चन भी जो इम्प्लिसिटली 2019 के पहले बच्चे करंट लिखते थे, आज यूपीएससी ने क्या कर दिया, उसको बहुत एक्सप्लिसिट कर दिया. मतलब अभी this is not going to be only edge taking, this is not going to be edge taking only, this is going to be necessary to do, because you will be marked whether to what extent you write current developments. तो पहले वो एज होती थी कि 19 से पहले बच्चे सिर्फ लिखते थे, जिसने लिख दिया उसके मार्क्स ज्यादा आते थे. अब ऐसा नहीं होगा, अब आपको इस पैरामीटर पे मार्क किया जाएगा. So you have to keep in mind that your content enrichment and value addition has to be, your linkage has to be very, very, very current oriented. Okay, and it cannot only be reading certain notes or flexibility with that regard. Fine. Now, if I look at the overall theme of the paper, okay, so we can say that section A is a little more trickier than section B, which means IGP से ज़्यादा political theory वाला section मुश्किल लग रहा है. Okay. Now, I have always emphasized to students one very important thing, that in the exam, most important is interpretation. We know the themes, we know the content of the particular theme, but if that theme has been asked one notch up, which means direct सवाल नहीं आया, किसी particular elitist theory of democracy को किसी implicit sense में पूछा जा रहा है, okay, equality को is no more that equality की opportunity of idea ही दे दो. Equality पे एक statement आता है जो already 2018 में भी आया था, and that equality is being linked in a more greater depth. So you understand your interpretation of the question is very, very important. And let me tell you, how much ever content you know of a particular theme, in all this, in this entire paper, one thing is reflected, and that is the importance of writing answers. If you do not write, let me tell you, आप कितना ही पढ़ लो, you will not be able to perform as per your best levels. Okay, because interpretation of question, the more you are exposed to new set of questions, indirect set of questions, contemporary linkage based questions, more your interpretation improves. So let me tell you again, UPSC proves, which is a very important norm, that writing is very, very key to success of any candidate. Okay, so I will be doing things a little more objectively. So we have classified this entire paper into 3 categories. Okay, I am explaining what is the nature of every category so that it is better for you to interpret. So the first category is the easy category. Which category? Easy category. And what does easy mean? Easy का मतलब है, ये क्वेश्चन कहाँ से आया है, ये डायरेक्ट सिलेबस में जो मेंशन्ड है वहीं से आया है. It has come directly from the syllabus. which means you were expected to study this particular theme. It has been clearly mentioned, and there is no ifs and buts that I had not studied the theme. So a question will be only easy for any student when you know the entire syllabus thoroughly, and there should not be any elimination mechanisms that we will study this and we will not. So easy means, so if I see in your paper there are 16 easy questions, it might be shocking, but yes, there are 16 easy questions. Okay, next we look at the moderate category. The next category is the moderate category. Okay, now what is this moderate category? This moderate category means that the question was surely from the syllabus only, but you would have to interpret better. Means you will have to develop a second line of thinking of interpreting this particular question. Okay, so if we look at the moderate category in your today's examination, there are 8 questions. There are 8 questions which are of moderate category. And the next category is obviously the difficult category. So I will not say that the paper did not have difficult questions. So we are looking at things from an aspirant's perspective. So there are 4 difficult questions in your paper. Now, what is the difference between moderate and difficult? The difference between moderate and difficult is that interpretation of a difficult question needs not only one line of thinking, but it needs interlinkages between topics. Between topic and interlinkage within the question also. क्वेश्चन में ऐसे ऐसे स्टेटमेंट्स, ऐसे ऐसे कंसेप्ट है जिनको एक दूसरे से लिंक करना पड़ेगा, तब जाके वी विल अराइव एट अ सिंथेसिस एट द कोर आइडिया ऑफ व्हाट इज बीइंग आस्क्ड, कि असलियत में सवाल पूछ क्या रहा है. तो 3-4 आइडिया दे दी, लेकिन इन 3-4 आइडिया में कौन सी कोर आइडिया रिवॉल्व कर रही है. ठीक है, ये होती है डिफिकल्ट कैटेगरी, अनलाइक द मॉडरेट कैटेगरी जहां पे आपको उस थीम को थोड़ा और डिफिकल्ट वे से इंटरप्रेट करना है. ओके, सो लेट्स बिगिन विद द फर्स्ट रिएक्शन टू एवरी क्वेश्चन. So the first question in your paper is the systems approach. Systems approach is directly part of the syllabus. Okay, it is part of political theory. When we study political theory and approaches to politics, okay, systems approach is a key approach that should be studied. So this question is very, very easy. Anybody who would know can easily attempt a 10 marker of systems approach. So ज्यादा सोचना नहीं था, आपको पता था, आपको की एलिमेंट्स याद है, आपको थिंकर्स याद है, आप इजीली इस क्वेश्चन को अटेम्प्ट कर सकते थे. सो द फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज इजी एंड देयर इज डायरेक्ट एप्लीकेशन ऑफ हैविंग नॉलेज अबाउट द थीम, और लिख दिया जाए. ठीक है, अब द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज कल्चरल रिलेटिविज्म. ओके, तो ये जो इस टाइप के कंसेप्ट्स जो पूछे जा रहे हैं, जैसे कल्चरल रिलेटिविज्म, there can be possibility in the future कि differentiated citizenship आ जाए, या religious fundamentalism पे short note लिख दीजिए, communitarianism पे लिख दीजिए. This all can come in the future. ये questions UPSC ने एकदम suddenly नहीं पूछे हैं, एक ट्रेंड मार कर दिया था 2021 में. ओके, और वो क्वेश्चन था यूनिवर्सैलिटी ऑफ द कंसेप्शन ऑफ ह्यूमन राइट्स. ठीक है, सो इन दिस रिगार्ड अगर आपको वो डिबेट पता होती कि यूनिवर्सैलिटी एंड कल्चरल रिलेटिविज्म में आज के दिन क्या डिबेट है. सो दिस क्वेश्चन कॉन्टेक्स्ट वुड हैव बीन वेरी इजी, दो ऑब्वियसली इट डिराइव्स फ्रॉम मल्टीकल्चरलिज्म, right? So it is a very easy and direct application, and cultural relativist theory of rights has also been asked. तो इतना मुश्किल सवाल नहीं है, आपको पहले भी पूछा गया है और ये डिबेट का भी कंटेक्स्ट हम उसमें ब्रिंग इन कर सकते थे. नेक्स्ट, नाउ रेवोल्यूशन इन परमानेंस. अब ये क्वेश्चन वैसे अपीयरेंस में किसी को इजी भी लग सकता है और किसी को मुश्किल भी, but for me I feel it is a moderate question. Why? Because today UPSC is no more asking only mainstream thinkers. जैसे मार्क्सिज्म है तो मार्क्सिज्म में सिर्फ मार्क्स या ग्राम्सी नहीं, also Mao, also Marxism and socialism, how it is being applied in China today, right? तो इस तरीके से जो लिंकेजेस हैं या हाउ आफ्टर मार्क्स पोस्ट डेवलपमेंट्स क्या हुए, क्रिटिकल थियोरी इन द फ्यूचर, दैट ऑल्सो कैन बी अ इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेश्चन. तो ये जो थीम है, अगर रेवोल्यूशन इन परमानेंस का कंटेक्स्ट पता था, किसी को परमानेंट रेवोल्यूशन का आइडिया पता था जो ट्रोट्स्की ने दिया, and how Trotsky said that Marxism can be applied in the context of Russia, अगर ये पता होता तो ये क्वेश्चन बहुत आसान होता. ये क्वेश्चन उन बच्चों के लिए डिफिकल्ट है जो सिर्फ मेन स्ट्रीम थिंकर्स अच्छे से करते हैं, लेकिन उसके अलावा भी पोस्ट डेवलपमेंट्स जो एक पर्टिकुलर थीम में होती है, अगर वो पार्ट वीक है, देन दिस क्वेश्चन विल बिकम डिफिकल्ट. सो इंटरप्रेटिंग की कहा किसने, रेवोल्यूशन इन परमानेंस मींस परमानेंट रेवोल्यूशन की आइडिया किसने दी थी, मार्क्स के रेवोल्यूशन की आइडिया क्या थी, and how it differed from Trotsky's idea of permanent revolution. अगर ये कंपैरिजन पता था तो फिर ये क्वेश्चन बहुत इजी है, otherwise it becomes a moderate question. Okay? Now the next question is question 1D. The question is asking basis of power. Now let me tell you, इनिशियली क्वेश्चंस जो पावर पे आते थे तो फूको की आइडिया बता दो, एलिटिस्ट थियोरी ऑफ पावर क्या है वो बता दो, इतना डायरेक्ट आता था, ठीक है. बट वी सी दिस ट्रेंड कि 2020 में भी पावर के जो ओनली कन्वेंशनल वे से पूछा गया वैसा ही नहीं है. ओके, इवन दो थीम्स आइडिया सेम रहते हैं, बट सी हाउ इन 2020 दे हैड आस्क्ड नेचर एंड मीनिंग ऑफ पावर. मतलब एक स्टूडेंट को नेचर भी क्या होता है, मीनिंग ऑफ पावर क्या होते हैं, हाउ पावर कैन बी व्यूड इन डिफरेंट वेज, राइट, ये पूछा गया. सो दिस क्वेश्चन इज वेरी इजी. बट अब अगर आप अटक जाते हैं कि बेसिस ऑफ पावर कौन सा बेसिस पूछा है, तो दिस विल बी डिफिकल्ट फॉर यू. अदरवाइज इट इज अ वेरी इजी क्वेश्चन. और आप बेसिस को ऐसे डिवाइड करके भी लिख सकते थे, कोअर्सिव बेसिस, कंसेंट बेसिस, परसुएशन बेसिस, और उसमें की थिंकर्स को लाकर. लेकिन दिस ट्रेंड इज नॉट न्यू, ठीक है. ऐसा इस पावर के दूसरे टाइप ऑफ क्वेश्चंस जो पहले लेजिटिमेसी, अथॉरिटी और पावर का रिलेशनशिप पूछने वाले सवाल थे, उससे अब यूपीएससी हैज मूव्ड बियॉन्ड. सो नाउ फ्रॉम हियर इट हैज कम टू व्हाट, इट हैज कम टू बेसिस ऑफ पावर. ओके, तो इंटरप्रिटेशन अगर पता चल जाए कि इवेंचुअली हमें वही थिंकर लिखने, लेकिन क्वेश्चन समझ लिया जाए तो इट्स वेरी इजी टू राइट. अब इससे आसान सवाल तो मुझे नहीं लगता पूरे पेपर में है. ठीक है, सो इट्स अ वेरी डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन एंड लॉक्स थियोरी ऑफ सोशल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट. ओके, देन so let's come to question 2A. So why this question is difficult? As per the students, I feel that this question was asking that factors like community, culture, and nation weaken the hegemony of neoliberalism today. The hegemony of neoliberalism. So what do we know of how to interpret this question? So neoliberalism, based on the idea of market capitalism, And why we say there is hegemony? Which sphere of neoliberalism has hegemony in this context? So the hegemony of neoliberalism has been witnessed that this market capitalism has acquired a global character. So it is what? In the context of how neoliberalism as a face of global liberalism and globalization has spread. And to it comes the idea or challenge from community, culture and nation. And these factors are, which means जो ग्लोबलाइजेशन नियोलिबरलिज्म पे बेस्ड है, इसको आइडेंटिटी फैक्टर्स ने कैसे चैलेंज किया. अब इस सिंथेसिस तक पहुंचना लिटिल डिफिकल्ट फॉर स्टूडेंट्स, एंड देन दे वेरी नाइसली हाईलाइट टुडे. सो यू कांट जस्ट बी theoretically writing and finishing. You have to link the current development. You have to link the contemporary discourse scholars. Okay? Otherwise, this question will be incomplete. You will not be marked only on the aspect of today. आपने सिर्फ अगर theoretically इसको लिखा तो फिर वो आंसर अधूरा रह जाएगा. You will have to also give key example. So this question becomes difficult. First, that you had to arrive कि ये hegemony of neoliberalism कहाँ दर्शा रहा है, and identity factors how they are challenging it. Okay, fine. So that makes this question difficult. Now the next question, okay, I think it's very difficult for students because again this question and its unique characteristics is what. तो यहाँ पे पूछा गया है क्वेश्चन 2B, equality of estates caused equality of power and equality of power is liberty comment. अब equality पे अगर हम क्वेश्चंस देखें तो पहले जैसे सीधी सीधी सवाल आती थी, equality of opportunity लिखो, equality of outcome लिखो, राइट? द्वारकिन की आइडिया ऑफ इक्वालिटी क्या है? वेरी सिंपल सिंपल क्वेश्चन, सीधा सीधा सवाल, थियरी पता है आप लिख दोगे. लेकिन अब क्वेश्चंस इक्वालिटी के थोड़े इंटरप्रिटेशन. इसका पहला इफ वी सी द ट्रेंड स्टार्टर, इट स्टार्टेड इन 2018. यहाँ पे पूछा गया था इक्वालिटी इज फेयर ट्रीटमेंट रादर देन इक्वल ट्रीटमेंट. तो अब सिंस ओपन एंडेड क्वेश्चन हो गया, even if we will bring in all the theories, first we will have to interpret कि ये fair treatment, equal treatment, how it is linked with the concept of equality, and interpretation of this question has to go as per that demand rather than just mentioning theories of equality. Okay, तो अब इस सवाल का synthesis arrive करते हैं. So सवाल ने क्या पूछा? Equality of estates. So what are these estates? These are the divisions that were existing in society. Okay, तो ये जो divisions थे, तो when we say there is division, which means what is there? क्या है? Division means there is inequality. When I say there is division, that is inequality of estates, which means there is existence of inequality. So when the question read equality of estate caused equality of power, तो जब हमने when we reduced this inequality and we created circumstances after the French Revolution, okay, that established sort of equality of estates, and this brought what? This brought that all citizens are what? Politically equal. Okay, let's see the beauty of this question. Politically equal. अब ये समझो कि इन्होंने कहा equality of estates caused equality of power, and equality of power is liberty. Okay, so in the political sphere equality, तो power में क्या होने लग गया है, means in the political sphere there has been equality, and the idea of equality they say is liberty. मतलब अब इतना क्लियर एस्टैब्लिशमेंट हो गया कि इन्होंने पूरी आइडिया ऑफ इक्वालिटी किस पे रिड्यूस की, दे रिड्यूस्ड द आइडिया ऑफ इक्वालिटी टू लिबर्टी. ओके, which means equality which is devoid of what? Equality which is devoid of economic equality, not only political. So this question is what? This question is asking us the relationship between liberty and equality. तो ये क्वेश्चन नॉट ओनली ऑन इक्वालिटी है, ये क्वेश्चन कहाँ है? This question synthesis is relationship between liberty and equality. क्योंकि in liberty sense we see it is only political equality that got established after the equality of states. But this is devoid of economic equality. And without that, तो debate वो है, debate between liberty and equality is inherent in this question. That makes this question difficult. Okay? चलो, let's move to the next question. So this is a very simple question, very direct. This has been mentioned in the syllabus. Elitist theory of democracy denies the possibility of democracy as rule of the people. Why? What does this elitist theory of democracy talk about? It considers democracy as a market. Okay? And what it says that it is elections, political consumers are the voters, and the elitists are the sellers. Okay, so this entire idea of democracy has been reduced to those who possess power. Okay, and appears like a market mechanism. It is like an economic theory of democracy. Okay, so reduced to numbers. And obviously this has been criticized by the pluralist theorists. And who criticizes this elitist theory again? Obviously C.B. Macpherson. So he says that how this elitist theory of democracy has reduced what? Reduced democracy to a market mechanism. Okay. So very direct and very easy question. We also had to write the criticism that has been offered by the pluralist of the elitist theory of democracy as well as C.B. Macpherson's view, and how this entire elitist theory restricts this to rule of the people. Okay. So yes, idea of James Schumpeter will also be applied. Joseph Schumpeter. All right. Now, let's come to question 3A. Examine the liberal theory of state in contemporary times. Ab we all know the liberal theory of state. So why this question has been categorized as moderate and not easy? Because liberal theory of state kya hai? Liberal theory of state is obviously there mentioned within the syllabus. But this question becomes difficult because they are asking liberal theory of state in contemporary politics. So you will have to give key examples. You will have to write contemporary thinkers of how they visualize the role of the liberal state across developed countries, across developing countries, how it has, what has been the new challenges, new transitions. Okay. So yes, that's why this question becomes moderate. Got it? Okay. And now let's move to the next question. So this question again is human rights. Okay, it is a very difficult question. I think it is like Ambedkar and Rawls comparison. This question is also very difficult for students because to arrive at the core, the synthesis के सवाल ने पूछा क्या है, सवाल का मतलब ही समझना is difficult for students. ठीक है, तो ये सवालों में सबसे ज्यादा बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है interpretation of question in the first place, कि question पूछ क्या रहा है यही समझना मुश्किल हो जाता है. That's why it is difficult. Human rights are complex and contested social practice that organizes relations between individual, society and the state. अब if I had just pointed that already in 2020 they have asked us the concept of what? They have asked, can there be a universal conception of human rights? Okay, so if we see the synthesis of this question, so they say that human rights are complex and contested. They are complex and contested. How do we arrive at this synthesis? And they say, so depends on contested social practices that organizes relations between individual, society and state. So if we see the relationship, okay, that exists between the individual, society and state, how does it vary? How does it vary? It varies in the West, Western societies, and it varies in the other parts of the world or Eastern. So effectively question is coming down to what? तो जहां individual, society और state का relation जैसा है, what has been given, which values have been given emphasis. Okay, so in the Western society, what emphasis? Who is more important? Individual is more important. Okay, and how the relationship between individual, society, state is, it is very atomistic. Okay, on the other hand, if we look at, right, in the Eastern countries, their norms, their cultures are very different. So how they will apply human rights will be different than how the West will apply. So actually, if we look at the basis of this question, it is again the difference, right, that exists in the application of human rights in the Western countries, okay, and how it varies in the Eastern countries. And then mind you, you cannot say that yes, this will always be there. Why? The question has to end on the note that it is a universal idea only, because the basis of human rights is morality and human dignity. ठीक है, तो we cannot say कि ये इंडिविजुअल सोसाइटी स्टेट के बेसिस पे ही जो ह्यूमन राइट्स का आइडिया है वो डिराइव होगा, नहीं, इट विल वेरी. And even if it varies, we can come to some common presumptions that exist about human rights. ठीक है, तो eventual notion is morality, the universality, the paramountcy, and permanent nature, right, of whom? Of human rights. And this cannot be questioned. So actually the question was like that. So we usually first give the characteristics of human rights. It had to be done the other way around. कि भले the way relationship between individual, society and state is different in different parts of the world, but still human rights remains a universal idea. ठीक है, अब the next question very simple. ठीक है, so glad कि 15 मार्क्स के लिए आ गया. Individualism is inherent in Hobbes' absolutist ideology. Comment. So I don't think कुछ explanation है, it's very easy question. Now next very difficult question is question 4A. Right? So let's see. It's a comparison question. It's not only a question on justice. ठीक है, तो वही चीज को कंपेयर करने में जब हम लिखते हैं तो it will be different than what has been practiced other way. Dr. Ambedkar's idea of social justice leads to egalitarian justice as compared to Rawls' justice as fairness, which aims at notion of pure procedural justice. Okay. Now, if we see comparison of the question of justice, ठीक है, तो ऑलरेडी ग्रीक और रॉल्स कंसेप्ट भी आ चुका है, तो अब दे हैव आस्क्ड, सो दे आर आस्किंग जस्टिस इन डीपर. मैंने मिलियन टाइम्स कहा होगा कि आपका ऐसा कोई पेपर नहीं होगा जिसमें जस्टिस पे सवाल नहीं होगा. सो दिस इज वन थीम, इट्स सो obvious that you have to prepare it up, write down very well. Okay, इसमें कोई दोराय नहीं हो सकती, और वक्त के साथ जस्टिस के क्वेश्चन और कॉम्प्लेक्स ही होंगे. ठीक है, तो अभी सिर्फ रॉल्स को समझना जरूरी नहीं है, उसकी एप्लीकेशन विथ व्हाट अदर पीपल आर सेइंग ये जरूरी है. ओके, नाउ लेट्स सी. सो इन दिस क्वेश्चन व्हाट इज द आइडिया? सो इफ वी लुक एट दिस पर्टिकुलर क्वेश्चन, राइट, अंबेडकर एंड Rawls. So Ambedkar's idea of social justice is based on the values of liberty, equality, as well as fraternity. Okay, and he also gives it a spiritual dimension because he links what? He links that morality cannot be devoid of religion, spiritual aspect, because it is the Hindu religion which has led to what? Which has led to, you know, the discrimination that has happened towards the Dalits. Okay, so he already has, like, he is not only basing his idea of social justice on notions or like attempt to establish justice. He knows what he is seeking to reform. Okay, and if we look at Rawls' idea, and when the question says that it is pure procedural justice, which means there is no predefined idea, okay, that Rawls has. What he is seeking? He is only seeking to devise a perfect procedure. So Rawls' idea is more what the attempt to have establish justice as fairness, and fairness in that procedure. Okay, on the other hand, Ambedkar is not only focusing on the procedure, he is talking of substantively what he seeks to achieve, what he seeks to reform in society also to achieve that justice. अब इस क्वेश्चन में चैलेंज यहाँ आता कि सबसे पहले तो many students will not know in depth अंबेडकर्स आइडिया ऑफ सोशल जस्टिस. ठीक है, तो सोशल जस्टिस इन जनरल सबको पता होगा, और वही सोशल जस्टिस रॉल्स में भी अंडरस्टैंड करेंगे, वही सोशल जस्टिस को इन जनरल लिखते हैं. लेकिन अंबेडकर की स्पेसिफिसिटी क्या है? मींस अंबेडकर इज आल्सो बीइंग आस्क्ड इन डेप्थ. अब जब कोई भी क्वेश्चन में कंपैरिजन लाते हैं तो इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट दैट कंपैरिजन इज व्हाट? दैट कंपैरिजन एसेंशियली इज ऑन सर्टेन डायमेंशंस. So methodology क्या है दोनों की, right? What is the objective? What is the context in which they are writing? इन dimensions पे compare करना है. तो अगर आपका आइडिया दोनों का बहुत क्लियर नहीं है, क्योंकि ऑब्वियसली रॉल्स तो सभी पढ़ते हैं और सबको पता होगा, लेकिन सिंस इट इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट दैट यू विल नो सोशल जस्टिस ऑफ अंबेडकर इन डेप्थ, अगर ये नहीं पता है तो मल्टीपल डायमेंशंस पे इनको कंपेयर करना मुश्किल हो जाएगा. इफेक्टिवली यू विल बी डूइंग अ क्लटर्ड वर्क कि आप सिर्फ दोनों का आइडिया लिख कर आ गए. ठीक है, तो ये थोड़ा सा मुश्किल हो जाता है. नाउ सो दैट इज a difficult question obviously. Now the next question is the panchayats with why do I call it moderate? I will tell you. The panchayats with gram sabhas should be so organized as to identify the resources locally available for development in agricultural and industrial sectors. Okay. Examine statement in the context of Gram Swaraj. अब obviously this question ने गांधी जी का कोई नाम ही नहीं लिया, right? They have only said Gram Swaraj. So we have to first very much clearly know what Gandhi's idea of Gram Swaraj. अब इस क्वेश्चन में ज्यादा दिक्कत क्या आएगी कि ये क्वेश्चन थोड़ा जीएस ऐसे लिख जाएंगे. क्यों? बिकॉज क्या पूछा कि ये डायमेंशंस ऐसे है ना, एग्रीकल्चर, इंडस्ट्रियल सेक्टर्स, लोकली अवेलेबल रिसोर्सेज. तो स्टूडेंट्स विल नॉट फोकस ऑन व्हाट, ऑन द थियोरिटिकल एस्पेक्ट. क्यों? क्योंकि ग्राम स्वराज का आइडिया, डेवलपमेंट फॉर बिलो बहुत सरफेस रीडिंग है. ओके, ओनली इफ यू नो द कंसेप्ट इन डिटेल तभी आप उस क्वेश्चन को थियोरिटिकली डिफरेंशिएट कर पाओगे फ्रॉम जीएस. ओके, ये चैलेंज है इस क्वेश्चन में. इसीलिए ये आइडिया सिर्फ गांधी का आइडिया ऑफ ग्राम स्वराज ऐसे जनरल नहीं लिखना है, थियराइज करना है और उसे हाउ इट हैज बीन कंटेस्टेड बाय अदर थिंकर्स उस तरीके से लिखना है. दैट मेक्स दिस क्वेश्चन मॉडरेट. ओके, व्हेन वी डिस्कस वी विल नो. तो जब डिटेल डिस्कशन करेंगे तो वील टेक अप. नाउ नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज वेरी इजी. ओके, एग्जामिन द एंटाइटलमेंट थियोरी ऑफ जस्टिस. तो ये एंटाइटलमेंट थियोरी क्या है? दिस हैज बीन द क्रिटिक दैट रॉबर्ट नॉजिक ऑफर्स टू द रॉल्सियन थियोरी ऑफ जस्टिस. ओके, अब ये क्वेश्चन जो है ये हमारे सिलेबस में डायरेक्टली मेंशन नहीं है. सिमिलरली लाइक मल्टीकल्चरलिज्म, पर यूपीएससी ने ऑलरेडी एक बार पूछ लिया. जब यूपीएससी कोई एक बार एक अनकन्वेंशनल क्वेश्चन जो हमारे सिलेबस में मेंशन नहीं है वो नहीं लिखती, मतलब once it gives a question on that, it is your duty as a student कि आप जाकर उस थीम को पढ़ें. ओके, अगर आप नहीं पढ़ रहे हैं तो दिस इज अनफेयर कि एक थीम, नई थीम आई है. सो सिमिलरली थियोरी ऑफ जस्टिस जब हम पढ़ते हैं तो इट इज वेरी ऑब्वियस दैट यू हैव टू do the communitarian critique, it has been written, but you will have to also talk about what is Amartya Sen's idea, what is the feminist critique of liberal theory of justice, what is the libertarian critique of justice. ठीक है, वो syllabus में mention नहीं है लेकिन it is expected that you do. अब because this question has come, it is your duty कि next year there can be possibility कि इस question को आज सिर्फ सीधा पूछा है, examine entitlement theory. ये पॉसिबिलिटी है कि आने वाले समय में इस क्वेश्चन को और कॉम्प्लेक्स बना दे और डेप्थ में पूछे. तो यू शुड प्रिपेयर दिस थीम नाउ इन अ मोर बेटर मैनर इफ यू जस्ट हैव अ सरफेस अंडरस्टैंडिंग. ओके, बिकॉज कल जाकर इसी सवाल पे बेसिक क्वेश्चन नहीं कॉम्प्लेक्स क्वेश्चन आ सकता है. ओके, नाउ लेट्स मूव टू सेक्शन बी. सो coming to section B, okay, it is relatively more direct. But now when the questions are very direct, we have to make it more relevant in the context of what? We'll have to give more examples, we'll have to give more case studies. Okay, so let's see how the questions have been framed and how has been their application. Okay, so the first question is analyze the workers' movement in India in the pre-independence period. Okay, in the pre-independence period. So this question, okay, we know that it has come obviously from the workers' movement, and whenever you study, okay, any social movement, you must remember that you should always look at it from the historical basis. And workers' movement, whenever we understand, okay, it should have, or peasant movements also, it should have been first analyzed on the historical divide, that is pre-independence era and post-independence era. So if you do not read and understand things in that manner, you will not also be able to analyze if the question was on the changing nature of workers' movement in pre-independence period and post-independence period. Okay, so yes, if you knew factually what has been the particular nature, okay, in pre-independence period, then this question is very easy and it is a direct application because it has come directly from the what? From the syllabus. Now, this is a very good question. The preamble of the Indian Constitution reflects itself as a social contract. Okay, so let's come to question number 2. 5B. The preamble of the Indian Constitution reflects itself as a social contract. Elucidate. Okay. So why this question is very easy, why there is direct application? It is the basic understanding that you should have about preamble and why it is a social contract. Why it is a social contract? Because our preamble opens with what idea? It says we the people, which means consent, and people are part. Okay, right? People are part of this agreement and it is also showing the sovereignty of the people. On the other hand, why we say reflects itself as a social contract, which means it is talking of the terms of society, political society that we are seeking to place. So what should be the ideals that will be governing us? What is the nature of the state? We want to establish justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. Okay, we have a democratic republic which is secular, which is socialist, right? So it seeks to establish unity, integrity. So itself reflects as a social contract. And why? Why we need a social contract? Because we have been what? Decolonized. Before that, were the terms and conditions determined by the people or were they imposed? Okay. So how from colonialism we moved towards decolonization, we became an independent country, and that's why we laid new conditions, and this is what the preamble resembles. Got it? Let's move to the third question. Question 5C. Legislative Council is a house without any effective powers. Okay, so this question actually, if you knew what is the comparison between Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, okay, and then if you knew what is the composition and the nature of powers that is there between the Rajya Sabha and the Legislative Council, then it was very, very easy. Okay, why? Because what is it saying? Legislative Council is a house without effective powers. So even if you did not know too much about Legislative Council, right, if you would have analyzed the nature of the Rajya Sabha, its composition, qualification, disqualification, what are the powers that it has vis-a-vis Lok Sabha, then also on that line it was easy to answer. Because whenever we study legislature, we obviously, the first thing that we will compare in the concept of legislature is the what? The nature of the two houses. What is the composition? What are the powers? Who has more powers regarding to what? So very easy question in that regard. Okay. Now, next question is, how far is the NCBC an empowered body? Okay. So we had to know what? We had to know, right, what are the functions? We had to know what are the powers. And obviously its composition. So otherwise, to determine how far, it will be difficult. Now assess its role in the context of rising demand for backwardness among the dominant communities. So what is this question? So even if it is appearing like a very current based question, what we essentially had to do is that this NCBC and its working, if you would study its current working, its contemporary working, the working and the trend is very much on this line. Ki, with respect to the rising demand for dominant caste, to what extent assess the working of NCBC. Okay. So yes, you would have to give arguments for, against, and that way. So very easy, directly from the syllabus. Next question. High concentration of economic activities and consumption patterns. Okay. In the post-liberalization period has led to the failure of environmental movements in India. So what are they saying? What is being asked? They are, so obviously it is an easy question because we had to just interpret in the light of what have been the failure. But we had to contextualize this failure of environmental movement in regarding what? With respect to LPG era and how it has changed the what consumption patterns of people, how it has made people more materialistic, how more developmental projects are being assigned, whether we are able to do a balance between development and ecology. Okay, so how this changing pattern, because environmental movements that happened during Chipko were having a different idea, and today in the LPG era, how this context of environmental movements has varied. It is because of this high consumption patterns. So point out the failures. Okay. So you will have to bring in key examples, case studies in that regard. Now, next question is a little moderate question. Okay, because here bringing the relevant thinkers and example, okay, is the key. Why? What have they asked? Electoral behavior of voters is governed more by the economic and social factors than the political factors. Explain. Okay, so what is the electoral behavior? Governed, how it is governed by, so on what basis elections are being played out, on what basis politics is being played out? Is it because of the social factors? Okay, right? We have the economic factors and then we have the political factors, which means what is the role of parties here, how development is the key, and here social is identity factor. So which factor plays? So the question's argument is that voters' behavior is governed by economic factors, right? But we say that politics is never one-sided phenomena. It is all the factors which are relevant. So you will have to also give the counter agreement, okay, on how voting has been happening in the present time, how elections are being played out. Fine. So you'll have to balance in both the sense. So examples, case studies, everything will have to be brought in. Very easy question. जो सिलेबस ने लिंक दिया है वहीं से सवाल आया है, इतना आसान है सवाल. क्या कह रहा है? The doctrine of basic structure of the constitution, okay, has enhanced the power of judicial review of the Supreme Court. And what does the UPSC syllabus read? UPSC syllabus read judicial review and basic structure doctrine. तो जब सिलेबस में ही ये लिंक बैठी हुई है, ठीक है, तो आप अगर बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर डॉक्ट्रिन को जुडिशियल रिव्यू के साथ लिंक करके पढ़ ही नहीं रहे हो तो फिर तो ये क्वेश्चन भी मुश्किल ही लगेगा, राइट? So obviously we had to bring in relevant cases and other things in this regard. Now, let's move to the next question. Question 6C. Discuss the composition and function of the interstate council. Factual, you had to know. To what extent? ठीक है, तो अब UPSC is no more restricted to asking directly, जैसे composition तो पूछ लिया, functions पूछ लिए. अब सवाल, ठीक है, सिर्फ ऐसा नहीं है कि limitations और successes भी बता दो. What it has been able to function, to what extent, what achievement it has. क्या पूछा? To what extent has the body been successful in achieving its objective? So if we look at interstate council, what is this interstate council? It is the institutional architecture that has to be established for better center-state relations and relations amongst the state. So it is the institutional architecture of federalism in India, right? So when it is the institutional architecture of federalism, objectives of federalism की light में What has been its limitation? What has been its successes? The institutional architecture of interstate council, वो लिखना है, ठीक है? So you will have to write this question in political science in the light of federalism. इसीलिए ऑब्जेक्टिव्स जो हैं सेंटर स्टेट के गुड रिलेशंस, स्टेट अमोंग स्टेट गुड रिलेशंस के लिए बनाया गया है, ठीक है? तो इस तरीके से इस चीज को लिखना है. नेक्स्ट, so next question is question 7A. Okay, mind you, this is not the first time that UPSC is asking such a question on 73rd amendment. Just 2020 it has already asked what? It has asked to what extent 73rd amendment has been able to do what? It has been able to do gender justice or gender empowerment. Okay, so jab already we know कि it has been asked from the gender dimension, it is obviously how panchayat and how to what extent it is bringing upliftment of even other classes, right? तो बहुत ही predictable question था. Examine the unique features of the 73rd constitutional amendment. Do you think this amendment would contribute in achieving the goal of empowerment of marginalized sections of the society? तो बहुत ही direct application है. We already know why it is unique, how it is different, because no country in the world, okay, talks about this local tier of government in their constitution, okay, like India has. So obviously it is very unique in that sense. And then they are saying, do you think, so unique features is obviously what are the provisions that we have brought. So do you think it will be able to achieve the goal of empowerment of marginalized sections? So in this regard, if we talk of goal of empowerment, you have to write to what extent it has achieved the goal and to what extent it has not been able to do the same. And you will have to give case studies, okay? So where marginalized sections, how they are treated, talk about some panchayat like that, okay, right? And in this way things had to be done. Next question, question 7B. The speaker represents freedom and dignity of the house. Now I know that all of you study speaker, okay, and we all study it from the preliminary point of view, but debates on the house of the office of the speaker, okay, and its relations with the house with respect to PSIR perspective, very less students will study, okay. This question becomes moderate because here you will have to bring all the case studies, all the cases, okay, wherever Nabam Rabia case, okay, all these cases where how the speaker has acted, whether he has upholded the freedom and dignity of the house, to what extent it has also violated. तो ये क्वेश्चन इसीलिए मुश्किल है कि एग्जामिनेशन सिचुएशन में अगर ये ऑफिस को मेंस पर्सपेक्टिव से ना पढ़ा जाए और सिर्फ पीटी के पर्सपेक्टिव से पढ़ा जाए तो आप ये क्वेश्चन राइटली लिखकर नहीं आएंगे. You have to bring relevant examples also, cases also, and all the scholarly ideas that have gone behind the speaker's office and compare it also with the speaker office in other countries. This question has that amount of depth. It is not a question कि सिर्फ speaker पे सवाल आ गया है. अगर ये सब चीजें आप, this all things are not, ingredients are not there in the question, you will not be marked rightly. That's why this question becomes moderate and not easy. Next question. So discuss the policy initiatives of the 14th Finance Commission aimed towards promoting and strengthening agricultural development in India. ठीक है, तो अब ये तो काफी आसान सवाल है कि फाइनेंस कमीशन ने लोकल सेल्फ गवर्नमेंट के लिए क्या क्या रिकमेंडेशंस दी थी एंड हाउ दिस recommendations will help with respect to rural development and agricultural development. तो factual question है, पर ये question even if it is easy for those who would have studied, जिन्होंने नहीं पढ़ा होगा वो इस क्वेश्चन को लिख ही नहीं पाएंगे, तो उनके लिए ये सबसे मुश्किल क्वेश्चन हो जाता है, बिकॉज वी हैव सो मच बंच ऑफ स्टूडेंट जो कंटेम्प्रेरी डेवलपमेंट्स नहीं पढ़ता. तो फाइनेंस कमीशन पढ़ लेते हैं, 14th फाइनेंस कमीशन के भी कुछ रिकमेंडेशंस याद करते हैं, पर 14th फाइनेंस कमीशन का इस क्वेश्चन को जवाब देने के लिए आपको क्या करना चाहिए था? You should have very well a segregated understanding on different issues that the 14th commission, finance commission, has given recommendation, and what will be its implication, ये सोचने की क्षमता होनी चाहिए. अगर नहीं है recommendation को आप लिंक नहीं कर पाओगे क्वेश्चन में, though easy like that, but then it will become difficult for such kind of students. Okay, now 7C. So now let's move to a very nice question. Okay, I will take up in the detailed discussion. Okay, to what extent, how we discuss things in our crash course, and how they have overlapped with the paper. I will surely take it up in the next session that we will be scheduling. Ethnicity is the underlying cause which poses a great challenge in the resolution of the problem in northeast region of India. अब हमारे सिलेबस में क्या क्वेश्चन है? ठीक है, तो आप देखो, we have ethnic conflicts, okay, जो पेपर 2 का पार्ट है, India and the world, and we have ethnicity as a factor in Indian politics. और सवाल ने क्या पूछा है? ये एक सवाल इसलिए मुश्किल है क्योंकि इन्होंने पूछा कि ethnicity is the cause which is creating challenges to resolve these problems of northeast India. So in this regard, what you would have to do? You would have to write scholars which are talking of this link, how ethnicity is a problem in northeast India. ठीक है, तो ये क्वेश्चन इतना स्पेसिफिक था. थिंकर्स भी, की एग्जाम्पल्स, की डिस्प्यूट्स, टू व्हाट एक्सटेंट दे हैव बीन, तो बहुत सारे अमेलगमेशन करके आपको इस क्वेश्चन को लिखना था. राइट, लेट्स मूव टू द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. सो क्वेश्चन 8 इज अ वेरी मॉडरेट क्वेश्चन, इजी नहीं है, सब में बहुत एप्लीकेशन है, अच्छा नॉलेज भी होना चाहिए. द मेकिंग ऑफ द इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन is described as an attempt towards revolution. Okay, it's very ironic that I had actually, I will not say ironic, I will say it is coincidental that I had taken up a lecture on the making of the constitution, and I said that how a constitution brings the revolution. Okay, and it brings the revolution because it establishes what? A new social and political order. I have very in-depth analyzed that how the making of Indian constitution, like how we are looking at the constitution as a social revolution, as a political revolution. Okay, and this is not only that this is in the pre-independence period, this has been happening within the Indian national movement also, and it has been a continuing trend. Who says this? Okay, this has been pointed by Pratap Bhanu Mehta. Okay, so we had taken up this question in one of the videos. You can watch the making of the Indian Constitution. So it has just come. I'm very happy to see this question. How it is an attempt towards a social revolution. So yes, you would have to bring the thinkers and relevant examples in this regard. Last question, how far is it correct that the regional parties have strengthened Indian democracy and federal system? तो कौन से 2 डायमेंशन पे पूछा है? To what extent regional parties has brought, it has strengthened democracy, and how it has strengthened federal system. So yes, very much this question is moderate. It cannot be an easy question because you will have to, and the question only itself is very clearly saying give relevant examples. तो डेमोक्रेसी और जो फेडरल सिस्टम है, ठीक है, दोनों की idea how regionalization of politics has happened, whether it has led to more bargaining that is happening between the center and the states because of the rise of regional parties, or whether these regional parties are able to convey their message very rightly to the center and raise the demands, local demands that people have. So whether it has strengthened democracy as such, and also to what extent the federal system, which means to what extent center state relations are being improved, and also amongst the state relations. Okay, तो बहुत अच्छे examples, cases, right, even constitution के cases, ये सब इस question में आते. You only don't have to talk about what the phenomena of regional parties. You will have to link their impact with very important cases and examples. Okay, तो question ने सीधा पूछ लिया कि substantiate your answer with suitable example. So as I see the paper very clearly, UPSC has moved to the fact कि continuity with change है. ये इसलिए है कि ये जो trend है और ये जो difficulty आज पेपर में बहुत सारे बच्चों को आई है, it is not कि ये 2022 का phenomena है. This is happening since 2019. You are probably not able to catch this trend. Okay, and let me tell you a key mistake that all students who have not trained themselves to write open-ended questions, ये सबसे ज्यादा इस एग्जाम में फंसते हैं. जो बच्चे बहुत अच्छे से ट्रेंड होते हैं ओपन एंडेड क्वेश्चंस के लिए, उनके लिए ये पेपर इतना मुश्किल नहीं होगा. क्यों? बिकॉज दे हैव ऑटोमेटिकली लर्नड हाउ टू लिंक थिंग्स. और जिन बच्चों ने मेरे बहुत कहने के बावजूद भी करंट लिंकेजेस थियरी एज वेल एज आईजीपी में अच्छे से नहीं की है, केसेस का नॉलेज अच्छा नहीं है, तो आप उन डायमेंशंस को ला नहीं पाओगे और आप जीएस लाइक आंसर्स लिख कर आओगे. ठीक है, सो यस, we'll come up very soon with the paper 2 also. Hope all the very best to you. We are also coming up with the answer writing program from 3rd October, known as daily answer writing and mentorship program. In this particular program, I train all the students for open-ended questions, and the next 3 to 4 months will only be devoted, like until December, for training all of you to do better answer writing. So come see and explore the new way of looking at political science and international relations with Level Up IAS and Tejal Khandelwal. Thank you.